We are live on YouTube here. Welcome to the Wolverine Basketball Show. I'm Clayton Safey here with the man of the hour, Anthony Broom, the guy who is he's not home yet, as you see him standing there on the Mackey Arena.
This is my home now.
He took it over. I was going to say you're going to bring back a win because you're still there after talking to Dusty May, Michigan players, following a 91-80 win over Purdue on Tuesday night at Mackey Arena in West Lafayette. Anthony, did you go to Bruno's before the game? What did you do?
No, I had a couple errands to run on the way, and then a couple pit stops on the way, and so I wound up just going straight to the parking garage. And that's a business trip. You know, I wasn't coming down here for revelry and pregame meals and whatnot. It was a work trip. So it's a long drive. It's a one we're familiar with, although going a little bit of a different area. We're used to being in Indy and West Lafayette right now. But let me just start by saying the Mackey, I know you've been here for the NCAA tournament game. Your trivia question, when was the last time Michigan won at Mackey? The Mackey experience, when you are there as a visiting road team in the Big Ten, it is undersold. I mean, it is the craziest, loudest environment I've ever been in any sport. And there's a point where, especially early in this game, not to get too ahead of it, but in that first 4 minutes before the first media timeout, this place reached a pitch in terms of crowd noise that I've never heard before. It was insane. So to come in here and do what Michigan did is, I mean, it's what they did at Breslin and then some. I'm wildly impressed with all of it.
It seems super loud watching on streaming, and that the only time I've been there when it was Michigan Purdue was Mo Wagner and DJ Wilson against Isaac Haas, and it was crazy
tonight, by the way. Isaac Haas was in the building tonight.
Okay, and so was I saw Zach Edey. They were showing him on the broadcast, and it was Robbie Hummel bobblehead night. I mean, that's classic, right? You walk into their trap, you take over their trap. They got their bobbleheads. They'll go home happy in that way. But I thought, Anthony, and this was my headline over on the Wolverine.com. And by the way, Clayton Safey here with Anthony Broom. If you're just joining us, we're live here on the Wolverine Basketball Show, recapping the 91-80 win over Purdue. Anthony's there at Mackey. And you can head to the Wolverine.com for all of your coverage as well. Like the video here on YouTube. Let's get to 300 likes for this win. Also, can we get some Go Blues in the live chat, please? That would be great. And subscribe to the channel as always. But Anthony, I said Michigan bullied the bully. I mean, you think about this game a year ago when Michigan went there, and Michigan, beat them in the season series a year ago, 2-1. But it was a different type of game when they went to West Lafayette. They weren't able to win it. This time they come out and build a 20-point lead in the first half. Everything went right. You hit 8 threes. 7 guys hit a 3. You assisted on 14 of your 16 made buckets. All 9 players that got in the game scored. It went exactly the way you wanted it to. And then defensively, Braden Smith was out of sorts, throwing the ball away, hesitant to take his usual shots that, those mid-range pull-ups that are essentially for him layups to a certain extent. What did you see in that first half, and how stunning was it to see that crowd get silenced? You mentioned how raucous it was, but they took him out of the game, and I think they were, they were just stunned.
Yeah, really, it was before it was either under 4 timeout or someone called timeout. I forget whatever the first stoppage of the game. Purdue got up big. I think they were up 7-2. And then once Yax hit that 3 from, I think it was right over here in the right corner, that was kind of, an early turning point. From that point on, I felt like they cruised in that first half. They were getting to every loose ball. They were getting, the tap outs back out to the 3-point line. They were getting the loose balls. They were really kind of out Purduing Purdue in terms of the physicality, in terms of, that's why I planted the seed. I didn't plant the seed. It was the narrative anyways. But so I asked the question I did yesterday in Dusty's press conference about, what did you learn from the last time you were here that led to what happened tonight? Because this was going to be the biggest proof of concept test of that yet, in terms of how you do it in this building. Like I said, that first 4 minutes was as frenzied a crowd environment I've ever seen. credit to Purdue fans too. I mean, they're down 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, almost this entire game. And every rebound, every stop, every basket, these people are really trying to get this place going and hopefully spur the team to do some of the things that Michigan's done with these big runs they've made over these last couple of games. But Michigan's just better. I mean, the front court, Lenderborg, again, it wasn't quite the Breslin Center performance that I thought he might have in this game, but, again, a couple big threes. I think he had 3 of them in this game. Elliot Cadeau saw the floor for most of this game as well as he's had all year. I just felt like that was, from that first media timeout on, that looked like the last 2 second halves they played. That looked like some of the basketball that they played out in Vegas during Thanksgiving week. And, the key was going to be, and I'm sure we'll get to this here in a second, but, how do you, unlike the game at Breslin Center where Michigan State storms all the way back, ultimately takes the lead, Michigan wins by double digits anyways, they kept them at an arm's length the entire second half. Every time there was some kind of run, a little bit of oxygen, Michigan would hit a 3 or hit 2 free throws. And to do all that, by and large, without a Diamara for much of this game, I just think it was another one of those, we think back to these wins at Breslin Center, win at Mackey, these moments, these individual moments of greatness. But this year now, the Breslin game and the Mackey Arena game, everyone's fingerprints all over it, which I think speaks volumes about this team and what they're building towards.
Yeah, I wrote about this a little bit after the game, how what they did to build the lead, Anthony, was kind of different than what they did in the second half to keep the lead. And ultimately, the lead dwindled a little bit. It got to 8 a couple times late, and it ended up at 11 after you were up 20 in the first half, 16 at halftime. But that just speaks to how good this team is, too, because they understood the assignment. In the first half, they had to come out, make a statement, punch him in the mouth. They got Oscar Clough in foul trouble, an elite challenge by Dusty May on the
incredible.
What do they call it? I have it written down. The leg clamp by Oscar Clough that nobody saw. I don't think you saw it. I don't think anyone in the building wanted to see it, even if they did see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I went out to the concourse for another pit stop, so I didn't know what was going on.
You certainly had time. I'll give you that, because it took forever. But Noah Eagle, Robbie Hummel, they had no clue on the Peacock broadcast what they were looking at. There were people on Twitter saying, is Dusty about to get a Daimara, a hook and hold here, inadvertently? But no, it was a leg clamp, the first ever leg clamp I've seen this year. That got him 2 fouls. Then they had to bring him in late in the first half again, and he got his 3rd foul, and then he didn't foul again in the second half. But by then, he was kind of a non-factor. And if you would have told me that he would end up with 3 rebounds in this game, I think that I would really love Michigan's chances. But the first half was all about what you talked about, the offensive glass. 8 offensive rebounds turned into 14 second chance points. Michigan hit 4 of their 8 threes off of offensive rebounds. 2 of those were third chance opportunities where they got 2 offensive boards before them. And then in the second half, so in a Daimara, when things got stagnant at the end of the first half, it felt like they went to him in the post. He had a nice finish, and then he had the and one. He made the free throw. So that's 5 points there. His defensive presence was huge. He had the block on a Kaufman-Wren floater that doesn't get blocked. Like, he gets, you watch him for the last couple of years, nobody blocks that, and he was able to do it. But then in the second half, like you said, they didn't have him much, and then he fouled out. Terrible call. And he didn't score. He had 10 points in the first half, 0 points in the second half, yet Michigan was able to come up with big bucket after big bucket. It was Trey McKinney with some big shots. It was LJ Kaysen with 8 second half points. Lenderborg, really opportune. Like, every time that he made a steal, a block, he blocked a 3, leaks out like he does in transition. A die hits him, and then McKinney ends up with a layup on the fast break. And then this man, Elliot Cadeau, that we need to talk about, Anthony. He was the story. The first half, he had 6 assists. The second half, he had 14 points and 1 assist. And, as he said after the game, that he took what the defense was giving him. But every time it felt like Purdue was building momentum and the crowd was getting into it, at least from what I could hear, Elliot Cadeau made a shot and made a bunch of plays. I know you mentioned him earlier, but I thought he was big time. And now that's 2 huge road games that he stepped up. He scored a combined 34 points now, 17 in each at both Michigan State and Purdue.
If this team is going to get where we think it can and where it wants to go, Elliot Cadeau is, I know all the talk is Yaxel Lenderborg, Morez Johnson, Adai Mara. Elliot Cadeau might be the biggest pivot point sort of performance you get in these championship caliber games. And it's encouraging to me that, again, we're less than a week removed. 6 days ago, he didn't play in the second half at Northwestern because he was so bad. And to come out and do what he did, not only, again, I put this in the same bucket as that Michigan State game because I think it is 1-2 in terms of the hardest places to win in this conference. When the lights are the brightest, and if I remember correctly, he played pretty well out in Vegas too, in some of those Michigan wins that they had. So it's starting to kind of be a non-negotiable strength where if you're in a big game and you're in a showdown with a Jeremy Fears, a Braden Smith, what have you, Elliot Cadeau is not only going to hold up his end of the bargain, he might wind up being the better player on the floor that night. I think he's got that geared to his game. And I thought he was dialed in. A couple, again, you just kind of bake it in. It's like a quarterback that throws a bunch of deep balls, and some of them are going to get picked, right?
The one he threw way out of bounds.
It was the exact same play that got him benched at Northwestern, but on the other side of the floor. So, nothing but praise for him. LJ Kaysen, third straight game where I think he's a plus for you. Off the Trey McKenney. Talk about some of the big shots he's hit in these road games. Now this guy's not a true freshman anymore. He's a basketball player on the number one team in the country, and he keeps kind of getting better, and he's not fazed by these environments at all. So I think when you draw a through line through all of it, I'm so impressed by this team. Like they're almost, I feel like the term robotic sometimes has a negative connotation to it. Like, oh, they don't have any emotion. They don't play with fire. These guys are robotic in like the positive way, where like they are programmed to coexist together and perform at a high level in the biggest moments during their season. And, if there's anything you want to nitpick at times, it's the fact that sometimes they'll play a little bit down, or sometimes they won't fully bring it for 40 minutes. Purdue got back in this game. They got it down to single digits, but I never for a second thought that Michigan's effort wavered or anything like that. Like sometimes when you play a place like this, you just kind of have to hold on as long as you can. And credit to them making a lot of clutch free throws down the stretch too, to keep them at an arm's length. I don't think this game, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think this game after maybe the first 10 minutes or so was ever within 2 possessions.
No, it wasn't. Let's see, when Michigan built a double-digit lead. 10-10 was the mark in the first half, is when they built a double-digit lead.
We didn't even talk about that 16-0 run. That was the first half. Like there are punches you throw, and then there are haymakers. That was the haymaker. That
was kind of the TKO. Like Purdue wasn't out of it, but Michigan would have had to become a different team and made all sorts of mistakes. They won the game in that 16-0 run in the first half. And
then additionally, sorry not to cut you off, no. I think the vibe in the building kind of changed once they went up 42-22. If you like, it turned from, hey, this is Mackey Arena, you don't come here to win, to, gosh, I hope we can find a way to make this competitive, once Michigan got up by 20 in the first half.
For sure. So they're up 20. Like we said, it was double digits within the first 10 minutes. It didn't become single digits, just to finish off this point, until there was 2 minutes and 5 seconds to go. So they did. They kept it at, a 3-possession game the entire way, 3 or more. And, that was big bucket. That was big stop. That was big rebound when you needed them in the second half. There wasn't much offensive rhythm in the second half. There wasn't a lot of flow, but there didn't necessarily have to be. They were using time. Every little scrum for the ball that there was chewing up clock. You just kept looking at the clock, right, during that second half. A couple more things I want to go over with you before we can let you move on with your life there, Anthony, and get back to the hotel.
I got to get up to Monticello. Come on, man.
Beautiful Monticello. I think George Washington lived there or something like that, but maybe not that Monticello. But and I could have that completely wrong, so please roast me in the comments. But Anthony, the reception for Yaxel Lenderborg, who, at a bar last May, I guess, said that we're going to effing beat Purdue's A to keep it PG here. Yaxel joins us. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see a screenshot of him from that video that, of course, a Purdue fan kept in their back pocket for 2 days before this game to kind of spice things up a little bit. You were there when Michigan was getting off the bus outside of Mackey today, and then you were obviously there throughout the entire night. They were chanting with a minute to go or so, your team down double digits. This is what they've resorted to. They were chanting "F-U Yaxel." Apparently he was dancing along to it. Take us through that.
It was all game, by the way.
Okay.
Throughout the night. I mean, including he's right behind me during warmups. Him and Brody do the little dunk contest thing, and he's yucking it up out there. So it never seemed like it really rattled him. We did talk to him post game, gave a very diplomatic, short answer on the response to all of it and the atmosphere. And like I said, I just think they weren't really going to dwell on it. But I thought that the threes he hit in this game, really nice to see over these last couple games, him start to pick up the pace from the 3-point line a little bit. I mean, that's a game changer for how you have to consistently defend him if he's starting to knock down those shots. So, I mean, this environment didn't faze him. I don't think I've really seen him phased since we watched them play at Little Caesars Arena, the second game of the season against Wake Forest, which feels like forever ago. Yeah. But he's the Axel now. I mean, he's a legend.
Well, I think too, everyone thought it was going to maybe work against Michigan that this video came out or whatever, and probably had minimal impact, but it felt like, anytime, whether it's Roddy Gale playing against Ohio State a couple times, or it's a Daimara playing against UCLA, like it almost adds fuel to the fire for their teammates. And it felt like this video, they wanted to, kind of pick him up in a way. And then he made the plays he normally did. He ends up with 13 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists in this game.
That's all he had was 2 rebounds?
2 rebounds. Well, Merez got all the rebounds.
That's true.
And Adai got all the rebounds. But he was – and those were some wrestling matches down low for those boards. But the way he was bringing the ball up, facilitating, defending Braden Smith, defending other guys, he had a huge impact on this game. His fingerprints were all over it, so that was impressive. And
put the exclamation point on the game with the block of TKR. Was the last minute or so, minute and a half, whatever it was. So
that was awesome.
The thing that's so fun about Yaxel, or so impressive about him, I should say, is that you could watch him play, and the box score could be, like you said, 13 points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists. Or he could have 26 points and 12 rebounds. And if you weren't following the box score, I think the effort and what he does for this team is the same. Like you could do a blind test of his stat line, and I think what he brings to this team every night, I think is more important than his box score or what his stats are. So, just another big, you got to back it up. The thing is, once you're caught on video, it's like, well, you better make damn sure that you do your part to where that's not the story anymore. And the story is now Michigan comes into a place that's extremely difficult to win. They get up by as many as 20, and they walk out with a double-digit win. And all those people in these stands behind me that were chanting "F-U Yaxel" were headed for the exits at the final media timeout with like 3 minutes to go. So, Who got the last laugh?
And as a commenter here on YouTube says, and you know what? We did beat their ass. And that's exactly what happened. And look, the video was a kid asking him, or a guy, I guess you should say, because it was at a bar, asking him to send a video to his friend who's a Purdue fan about how they're going to beat Purdue. Yaxel hadn't even enrolled at Michigan yet. And he was pretty much playfully saying it and joking around. But also it comes out 2 days before the game. No one knows the context, nor do you care if you're a Purdue fan. Either way, it didn't seem to have a huge impact on the game, but it definitely was a subplot here. It was alluded to a little bit by the announcers and things like that. So, in all, it's kind of funny in a way. But Michigan with a huge win. Anthony, Great stuff from the floor there. I'm jealous of you, man. Safe travels back, and everyone check out what Anthony writes and all the press conferences and everything over on the Wolverine tonight. So.
This is me passing the baton to you now. You take it and you go to DC. You got to keep the train rolling. So
that's right.
Awesome.
This is a special season, man. This is a special season. So it's been incredible. But thank you to Anthony. I'm going to wrap up with some comments here from the fort. So AB, thank you very much. And okay, again, if you're joining us, we are live for the first time after a game this year. Just joined by Anthony Broom, my coworker there from Mackey Arena. We are going to continue to talk about this game, Michigan's 91-80 win over Purdue. Give us some likes on the video if you're watching live here on YouTube. Also, in the comments, let's get some Go Blues. Let's get some comments on the game. What were your biggest takeaways as well? We have a comment that says that Anthony looks like he's in a cathedral. He kind of was in a cathedral of college basketball, one of the best venues in this sport. So now we're going to turn it a little bit to some more of my thoughts and then our comments from the fort. And we pretty much covered most of it. I think the only thing that I wanted to add and add a little bit of color to was just the defensive effort that Michigan had. I mean, Purdue in the first half only made 3 layups or dunks. Purdue for the game was 9 of 18 at the rim. So they only got there for 18 attempts. They only made half of those attempts. They shot 44.2% from inside the arc in this game. And I think it was pretty clear. And if you listened to Dusty May yesterday in his various media appearances, his radio show and his press conference, they were less worried about Trey Kaufman-Wren's floater than they were about Braden Smith's pull-up jumper and the role players hurting them. I mean, think of the job that Michigan did to make Braden Smith uncomfortable, throwing bigger bodies at him. Yaxel Lenderborg started the game on him. And then, he was hesitant to shoot those shots. There was the one where he threw the ball away into the backcourt out of bounds off of, when he should have just pulled up and shot it, right? But they had him seeing ghosts, and he got going. He had some nice steals, some nice dimes, some nice shots in the second half as he kind of helped lead their comeback that never really came to fruition. Kaufman-Wren ends up with 27 points, but it took him 26 field goal attempts. He went 12 of 26 from the field and 3 of 3 from the free throw line, 12 boards. He was a man tonight with the counter moves. He wasn't just over his left shoulder. He did a good job. I thought he got the better of Merez Johnson a few times. Merez didn't play as sound as you would like on defense, although he gave you everything he had, as he always does. Finishes with 12 and 11 there. Mara blocking one of those floaters, things like that were huge. But then the job on the role players that Dusty May mentioned after the game, that rings true. Foster Loyer hits the 2 shots early, 2 in the 3. He ends up with just 11 points. And then really part of Purdue's recipe is having shooters, the role players off the bench come in, make an impact because of how much attention Braden Smith, TKR, Oscar Clough get. Well, those guys were held in check. CJ Cox, 3 points, 1 of 4 from the field, all from 3. Omar Mayer, the backup point guard, had a bit of an impact there in the first half, and they needed him to do that. But he was their 4th leading scorer with 8 points, most of his impact early on in the game. Jakari Harris, who can come in, hit threes, run in transition, 2 points on 2 field goal attempts, 1 rebound. Clough was neutralized. We talked about that earlier. Daniel Jacobson, 2 points, 1 of 4 from the field. Like Michigan, TKR got his, but Michigan shut down Oscar Clough, shut down Daniel Jacobson, the 7'4" big man, and shut down the backup wings and CJ Cox, the starting wing, along with Fletcher Loyer. And then Loyer didn't do much after the beginning of the game either. So a magnificent job on Purdue. Overall, the numbers pretty good. Their points per possession number of 1.15 was inflated due to some absolutely ridiculous calls at the end of the game that sent Purdue to the free throw line. They end up 18 of 20 from the stripe, but Michigan, with their ability to hit threes, 13 for the game, 8 in the first half, they end up at 1.31 points per possession. They got to the foul line themselves, 18 of 23. Felt a little more legitimate. Maybe we're biased here when Michigan got to the line, especially compared to some of Purdue's late. We're going to go through just a few comments here as we asked fans over on the Wolverine.com to sound off. So if you're in the YouTube comments right now, you can Oh, someone's asking if I've got punched in the eye. It might be a weird shadow. I don't know what's going on here. I'm in an Airbnb here, so we're not quite at the home base, so we got a little different lighting. I think it's because there's a lamp right over here, and then my other side of my face a little bit darker. But I appreciate the concern there. I did not get pepper sprayed again, as Z Schaub asked. I did get pepper sprayed at Ohio State in 2024, along with Mason Graham and some other guys. So let's go through some comments. Willie says Yaxel backed up his talk, and that was a blowout. Zebras really tried to keep Purdue in it, but couldn't. Go blue. Hampshire Blue says, perfect example of the refs allowing way too much to happen, and you get the result you saw tonight. Congrats to our men for overcoming all that and winning a huge game on the road. San Diego Go Blue says, really solid first half. Overall, great shooting on the road. Johnson and Roddy missed a couple bunnies in the second half and a few too many turnovers in the second half. I give that a solid A win. Only complaint is the easy shots didn't fall in the second half and a few sloppy turnovers that led to points at the at the other end. Sorry. Big Tuna. Shout out Big Tuna. Says 6 players in double figures, 6 players with at least 2 assists. Just outstanding team basketball. I agree. And then in the second half, it didn't have as much flow, but guys made more individual plays, which is unselfish too, because they needed guys to step up. But the final assist rate, 24 assists on 30 made buckets. So what am I talking about with the individual stuff? That's great. Great ball movement, sharing the basketball as well. We already asked our early prediction for Duke. It's hard to pick against Michigan. I'll say that. SoCal for Mich says LJ Kaysen is the most improved on the team. Could not come at a better time. He and Trey will be why we win the Natty. Look, those guys are going to help them win tournament games. LJ Kaysen helped them beat A&M last year. They don't beat them without it. His performance. Same with Roddy Gale. You're going to get those outlier performances. McKinney now, I saw has 18 games where he scored in double figures. For a freshman, that is outstanding. And he's going to win them some tournament games too. And it's hard to even count those now with what we're seeing from those guys lately as outlier performances. Bringo1 says any win in Mackey is a great win. Just had to survive the onslaught of foul calls from the refs in the second half. That is becoming quite a bit of a theme here as we read through the comments. Uper Blue over on the Wolverine.com says it was clearly a business trip for the team. Loved how they went about handling it. Plenty of adversity with the environment and whistles, and they just took care of business. Yeah, this team just does not get too high or too low. It's been amazing to watch. You almost think of at Purdue as a logical loss or at Michigan State as a logical loss until you realize it's this Michigan team playing in those games, not some other team, including some past Michigan teams, right? It's tough to win in these environments. And this is a top 10 Purdue team. It's not a bad Purdue team when they're down. Go Blue 1, speaking of Purdue, says, I can't stand these Purdue teams. The whistle they got in the second half was something. Hoops coach N3D says, good win in one of the tougher road environments. D1 2 says, have to feel darn good about the conference championship now. Felt this was the game to grab and take real control of things. Yeah, the odds go way up with this. I haven't seen them on BetMGM. I think they lock them during the games, but we'll check on it after the games are done tonight. And now you look at it, Michigan's 15-1 in the Big Ten, Illinois 12-3, Nebraska hanging around at 11-3, but now you have Purdue, Michigan State, and Wisconsin all with 4 losses. It's going to be tough to envision Michigan losing 4 games in this one. So you could maybe get a share of the conference title with 3 losses, but I don't see it with 4. So Purdue is pretty much eliminated. Matt Painter said before the game that he thought if you're going to win the Big Ten, you got to win this game. Let's see. True Blue Fanatic says, never a doubt. I called for a double-digit win. Michigan is a beast this year. Michigan may not lose another game this year. They really might not. That's becoming a real possibility. I would bet that they do. And you would hope it's Saturday against Duke if there is one left, or it's at Illinois or something like that, and then you win the rest, obviously. But there's a chance this team could do that. They're that good. Hava Mish. I could just tell from the TV that the Purdue crowd is wild. Credit to them. They were fired up even when their charges were down 20. I don't know exactly what the charges mean, but when their team was down 20, absolutely. They kept it going. That is a fan base that is raucous. Squeaks 23. After getting blown out, Dusty and Co. unlock something. Let TKR get his. He isn't a playmaker and can't shoot outside 8 feet. TKR, 27 points on 26 shots. Chrysler last year, 22 on 19. Big Ten tournament last year, 24 on 24. Cadeau seemed to take this game personal too. All the talk about Braden Smith and Elliott put on a clinic. Great points there by Squeaks. Appreciate you, Squeaks. Definitely, as I said earlier in the show, that they were more focused on the role players. They were more focused on Smith and TKR. He really can't hurt you outside of twos. And like he said, you good point. He didn't pass much to impact the game there. He didn't have an assist in this game. So great point there. Jersey Blue 4 says, anyone got a gif of Lawyers heat check 3? Yeah. Airball. That was a tough one to watch. It was kind of like Jeremy Fears in the Michigan State game earlier this year. Ed Go Blue says, we were definitely in control, kept our composure, even with 14 turnovers and a Purdue whistle in the second half. No stage is too big for this team. Jersey Blue 4 says, the safest bet in all of sports is that the Big Ten refs let the teams play prison rules in the first half. They'll be whistle happy in the second. Yeah, that is true. When you're down, especially if you're at home and you start driving to the rim, it's like an auto call, especially with Larry Scarato's crew. So just kind of keep that in mind. A lot of comments here about the officiating. I'm going to skip some of those. Blue Man 92 says, love Broom by himself in that empty arena, looking good, but he needs to wear some better gear. LOL. I didn't even realize what he was wearing. Maybe that's on me. Blue Man 92, I agree. He took that place over. Anthony's the absolute man, and safe travels to him on the way back here. Really appreciate him joining us because sometimes it just is tough when you're at a venue and you're covering stuff, and I asked him to hop on here, so appreciate him doing that. Sycama says, if when we beat Duke, who will be the guy who voted for Houston #1 in the polls? Who will the guy who voted for Houston #1 in the polls vote for to ensure Michigan doesn't get a unanimous #1? Yeah, that was John Weisner of the San Jose Mercury Times or Mercury News, whatever that newspaper is. Don't have it in front of me right now, as Jim Harbaugh would say. That doesn't look great. Houston with the loss last night. Of course, at Iowa State, not a bad loss at all, but Michigan's clearly the best team in the country right now. They may not end that way. I mean, that's the goal, right? I think they got a hell of a shot of getting to Indy and winning it all, but there are no guarantees. But right now, it looks like the best team in the country to me. Lot of more comments on the officials. No contact on the Purdue guard. Think that is it. We'll take one more scan at the comments on YouTube. David S. 6698 says Michigan should be an NBA expansion team. That kind of reminds me of me opening the show after the Gonzaga game in the Players Era Festival saying, is Michigan bad for college basketball? Is this team bad? Are they too good? Has Dusty May created a program that is too good? Michigan Duke early prediction, Cameron 2K asks. Yeah, like I said earlier, it's just tough to pick against Michigan. I was pretty dialed in to the first half of Duke Syracuse last night. I didn't take a ton from it. I've caught a decent amount of Duke here and there throughout the year. I'm going to hone more in on Duke tomorrow in the matchup. But, man, if your best player is a big, I mean, I said this after the Gonzaga game too, to go back to that. If your best guy's a big and you're playing Michigan, good luck. You know, if your best guy's a point guard tonight, good luck. And same with the Michigan State game. Michigan has outplayed those guys. So Michigan's done a good job. There were some times earlier in the year where it felt like other teams' best players were getting going. Now it just doesn't feel like that anymore. And, that is, speaks to just how this team has locked in defensively. It's the #1 team in the defense, defensively in the country for a reason. But appreciate everyone's comments. Appreciate all the likes. I trust right now. I can't see right now, but can't see the like count, but I trust that we're at 300. Thank you for everyone bearing with us, going a little bit longer here. Figured it was a big enough game. It was an early enough tip where a lot of you would be up. We had Anthony Broom from Mackey Arena. Appreciate him joining us. So for Anthony Broom, I'm Clayton Safey here following a Michigan 91-80 win over Purdue. We will talk to everyone on our podcast on Thursday. We will preview that Duke game. We'll have our prediction up on the site, all sorts of coverage all season long over on thewolverine.com, and we will see everyone next time.